Hi, and welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. Today I'm talking about a film called The Score from 2001. I can still remember the anticipation I had around the release of this film when it was coming up to release. It had everything that I could want at that stage. It was a crime thriller, and it had three legends, Brando, De Niro, and Ed Norton, acting in it. And a bit like Heat, when you had De Niro and Pacino together, half the anticipation was looking forward to seeing these three on screen at the same time interacting. And you could nearly make the argument that at that time, anyway, they were each the best actor of their generation. I know that's a big call, but I think most people would agree that at least Brando and De Niro could claim that. Norton at the time, I think, was definitely in the running, if not at the apex of that argument. So it felt like an event. This film kind of nearly felt like an event for serious people that were really into movies, like I was and still am. So I went along to see it at the cinema. Great film to see at the cinema. Really enjoyed it. Thought there was a lot going on, and I've seen it several times over the years, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, and still always enjoyed it. I haven't probably seen it for around 10 years, though, I'd say. So I watched it last night with my parents. It's a film they've seen before a lot and always enjoyed, and they love these three actors. They typically like films that have got actors that they can relate to or that they've got a history with. So this ticked a lot of boxes. What happens in this? Nick Wells is the De Niro character. He's a professional safecracker living in Montreal. That location made it slightly more interesting with the French feel to things, and just the names on the streets. Unlike many criminals, he's survived by being extremely careful, and yet that's a recurring theme throughout the film. He doesn't take unnecessary risks, doesn't let the work become personal. He's got his own rules and code, much like the character in Heat, the Neil McCauley character. But outside of doing safe cracking, he also owns a successful nightclub, and he's built a relationship with Diane, played by Angela Bassett. She's an air hostess that he sees when she's in town. And they're at the stage in their relationship where he's seriously contemplating leaving safe cracking behind. And he announces that to Diane, and she's very much in favour of that. And then Max, played by Marlon Brando, who's his old associate, I guess, fixer, the guy who brings him his jobs, a bit like John Voight did in Heat, approaches him with a very lucrative job. We find out later that Max is heavily in debt to some dangerous people and needs Nick's skills. The target is a priceless French scepter that's hidden inside the Montreal Customs House, which seems to be an impregnable fortress. Now, the job is brought to them by a man called Jack Teller. This is the Ed Norton character. He works at the Customs House as a janitor, and appears to be intellectually limited when he's there. But that's just a front. He's a cunning, devious go-getter when he's not there. So it's all just for show. He's been taken under the wing of an older janitor, played by Frank Oz, who's also the director, and a name that you've probably heard of before from the Muppets. But underneath this carefully created image that Ed Norton's crafted is someone far more intelligent and dangerous. And the question really becomes, is Nick running this job, the De Niro character, or is he being played? I was never quite sure the first time I saw this what Ed Norton's motivation was. I mentioned Frank Oz. What a fascinating choice to direct a crime thriller like this. I know him primarily through his work with Jim Henson. But as a performer, he's created, of course, I didn't mention Yoda. Little guy called Yoda, you might have heard of. Along with Miss Piggy and Fozzie and Animal and all those legends on the Muppets, which was a show I loved when I was a kid. But he also developed a successful directing career. Little Shop of Horrors, the remake in '86 with Rick Moranis and Steve Martin. Another film I love, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that came out in '88 with Michael Caine and Steve Martin. One of the most laugh out loud films I've seen. What About Bob in '91 with Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss? I've got fond memories of that film too, but I haven't managed to catch it since. Thought it was very funny. He also made In and Out with Kevin Kline that I saw, and I can't remember too much about. So anyway, he does have a few films under his belt. Funnily enough, he also, like I said, he appears in the film himself as the older janitor that befriends Jack. It's a small role, but an important one, and he shows a lot of dignity and kindness in the role, and helps make Edward Norton's eventual reveal much more effective. So I also mentioned at the top there that there's a definite heist film tradition for me, and the biggest comparison for me is the Michael Mann film Thief, which I'm a massive fan of. It's one of my favorite films of all time. Both the chief protagonists in these films are professional criminals with strict personal codes, but a desire to step aside. And there's one final job that's just too tempting that they do that sort of goes against their code, and they think they can control it, but things get out of control. The difference for me is that Thief is much more interested in the psychology of the criminal, the James Caan character, whereas this one's more interested in the mechanics of the job and really entertaining us as the audience. You could also, like I did before, compare it to Heat, especially because of the De Niro connection, but the same kind of things apply. A strict disciplinarian in terms of his criminal code and trying to balance his personal life with his chosen profession. That's probably a link with Thief as well, with the Tuesday Weld character. But again, both the Michael Mann films are much more interested in the process and the obsession and the loneliness. Whereas, The Score is a much more entertainment-focused film. And watching the skilled actors go against each other. It's a very controlled De Niro performance. He's really the straight man in this one. He's not an explosive guy. He's not De Niro's older here, a bit heavier, in all honesty. He's filled out a bit more. He's methodical. De Niro plays him as someone who's over this lifestyle, a bit weary, doesn't want more adventure. He wants peace, and he just wants to use the score to settle the money that he owes on his nightclub. And of course, he wants to spend more time with Angela Bassett. Who the hell wouldn't? Wow, Angela Bassett around this time, you just couldn't get much better for me in every sense of the word. She brings a lot of real warmth, as always, intelligence. She's a thinking man's woman, I think. Incredibly attractive, but a great performer. She's not just the girlfriend waiting at home in this. She understands Nick, doesn't care so much about his money. Just a legend for me. Boys in the Hood was probably the first time I saw her. She's fantastic in that, going up against Larry Fishburne. Malcolm X, What's Love Got to Do with It, of course. Loved her in Strange Days as well. A film called Waiting to Exhale in the late 90s. Saw that a few times just for her. She is incredible in that, as an older woman, but still looking amazing. And Black Panther, she was in as well. Great screen presence. Marlon Brando, of course. Not much more to be said about him that hasn't been said, but he's around 75 in this. Just about finished as far as acting's concerned. I've got a long history with him. The Godfather was my intro to him, along with most people of my generation. And I quickly went back and watched all the back catalogue, from probably Streetcar Named Desire onwards. For me, the highlights would be, yes, The Godfather, On the Waterfront, an incredible film, incredible performance. Apocalypse Now, of course, just for the weirdness and he just adds even more bizarre energy to a film that's already swimming in it. I think someone else has said that whatever film he's in is worth watching, and that he's never bad, because he's always entertaining, always interesting, charisma. He still has charisma in this. He's enjoying this role, chewing up the screen for the little time that he's on there. I just love seeing Brando and De Niro together, like I did when I saw The Missouri Breaks with Brando and Nicholson together. They were neighbors at the time. Brando does have a sense of awe, for me. Ed Norton, though, his performance steals the film. His entire performance is based on deception, like he did in Primal Fear. Initially, when we see him on the street, he appears vulnerable and awkward and underestimated, but he soon reveals a keen intelligence and calculation, just like Primal Fear at the end. And I kept on thinking, because I haven't seen it for a while, I couldn't remember what his actual twist was, but yeah, he's just got that depth and that range, like I said earlier. Primal Fear, what a run he was on. Primal Fear, Rounders, American History X, Fight Club, of course. Then this, and then 25th Hour, the Spike Lee film. It seemed like the sky was the limit, that he would be the De Niro of his generation, and he had vulnerability, but he could do rage and menace as well, and transform himself like he did in American History X, as De Niro did in Raging Bull. But I think, yeah, just some choices, or whether he didn't enjoy the limelight. I'm not sure what happened there. But, yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman and others seemed to overtake him. So the heist itself, some things worked and didn't work for me with the heist. There's a good amount of tension in the planning. The planning for a heist is always a great part of a film, whether it be Ocean's 11, or this, or Baby Driver, or whichever heist film you want to talk about, Thief. You're watching these professionals operate, and for most of us, we haven't been in this situation, so we're fascinated by what makes these guys tick, to take such risks. And the performances really work well during the heist. You're wondering, how is De Niro going to pull this off inside this cage with this safe, with all these cameras on him? And it's a bit Mission Impossible sort of related, the way it's done, but it feels like he's doing it. You can see him sweating and straining, especially when Ed Norton makes him wait, when he reveals himself. And that's a really interesting element, when you're wondering, is Ed Norton going to jeopardize the whole score? What didn't work as well for me this time round was just the over-reliance on technology. to do the actual heist. It's a bit more impersonal, harder to relate to, harder to feel the tension. Some of the solutions I felt were a little bit too convenient and just in the nick of time. And an impossible robbery becomes surprisingly achievable and fairly easy, if not for Ed Norton's skullduggery near the end. And I guess at some point, I just had to accept that you just got to sit back and enjoy the ride. So look, I think when I saw this the first time and for the next few watches, I thought this was a clever, really ingenious film and a great battle of wits and an acting masterclass between De Niro and Norton. Now I find it still a really entertaining film that nearly anyone can sit down and watch. Still really well acted, but not as satisfying as I remembered. The payoff near the end is really satisfying. I will say that. But just the actual heist itself didn't grab me as much, and maybe I think in between I've seen more great heist films in depth and really got into them more, like Thief, definitely Heat, even other films like The Killing, early Kubrick film, that are more interested in that process and character and consequences. And this is more of a polished Hollywood thriller, which at that stage I was probably more into when I first saw it. Now I'm an old fella now. I'm more reflective. So is this a date film? Absolutely it is. It's really accessible, like I said. Anyone can enjoy this. It's entertaining. There's laughs. There's good tension, great performances, suspense. You've got Angela Bassett in there as well. There's a relationship going on in the film. A great film to watch with someone. You come out of there buzzing. Hangover film, yeah, I think so too. It's really enjoyable, not asking anything, entertaining, great. Watching familiar faces, nostalgia. Yeah, you're gonna feel better. You can also watch it alone, but you don't need to. It's not a have to watch alone and reflect film. Like I said, it hits a lot of buttons, this one. So look, it still works well because of the cast. Frank Oz directs it well. He doesn't impose himself on it. He doesn't try and do weird things. He just lets these guys cook. You got three generations of acting talent. De Niro shows restraint. Norton shows a lot of range and unpredictability and menace. Brando just relies on his charisma, and that's enough when you're that good. So it wasn't the masterpiece that I remembered from 25 years ago or even 10 years ago. But it's very enjoyable, and it doesn't need to, for a film to be good, it doesn't need to transform cinema or have something deep and meaningful or philosophical to say, or even, like I always say, it doesn't need to hit me in the guts or the heart or somewhere. It doesn't need to make me feel something. I can just enjoy it, and I did. I liked it. I'll probably watch it again one day. I just won't return to it as much as I did before. So can highly recommend it. It's free on YouTube at the moment. Actually, it's YouTube seems to do this now. They have these. There's obviously the uploaded films that are free, but sometimes you get the variable quality. Whereas they release a lot of free films where it's a good print. It's the original print. There are a few ads throughout it, so if you can stick through those, check it out sometimes. You might be surprised about what's on there. So that's it. That's The Score from 2001. Thanks for listening as always, and see you next time.